So, welcome today to Linda Monk, Director of the International Association for Journal Writing, social worker, professional life coach with over 30 years' experience, co-author and co-editor of many books, public speaker, and all-round fabulous person. Now, Linda, maybe easier if I ask you to introduce yourself in your own words, sharing a bit about where you are, what you do, and why it is important to you.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to be here with you, Julie. And I live on Salt Spring Island, which is a Gulf island on the west coast of Canada between Vancouver and Victoria. Many people know the Gulf Islands. It's a real tourist and artist destination. So I live in a tourist community most of the summer and a quiet place in the winter.
Sounds bliss.
Yeah, and my work in the world, as you said, I lead the International Association for Journal Writing, and we are a membership community for journal writers worldwide. It's an inspirational and educational community, and it's so much fun. And I absolutely love it. Journaling and writing are central to everything I do, and sharing it with others is my true passion. So I feel blessed to have it as my daily work in the world.
Isn't it wonderful when indeed your passion can be also how you earn? I mean, that's what makes life so much more enjoyable, right? And I actually came across Linda. I interviewed you for the International Association of Professional Coaches and Mentors, didn't I? I hosted your masterclass. Anyway, I'm so happy that you took us up here. And journaling is something which is particularly close to my heart as well.
Mm.
I was really interested, and I love the way you chose as title journaling to live true. Maybe we start with what does living true mean to you?
Well, living true means to me that we really have a sense of what is meaningful to us and what our core values are and what our life purposes are. And these things then inform the choices we make, the things we do, how we organize our time, how we prioritize those things. So, for example, one of my life purposes is to use writing as a way to inspire people and to help foster change and well being in myself and others. And so, if that's really important to me, writing can't be at the bottom of my priority list. If
Right.
I'm living true to that priority and that value and that life purpose, it means that I have to actually have writing scheduled in my days. And it's the same with other things. We often can say that a lot of things are important to us, or we might get to something someday, or we're living lives that maybe other people have kind of shaped for us and not necessarily taken the time to figure out what's actually really important to you, what's important to me, and how do we then arrange our daily lives, which have multiple competing imperatives in them and priorities. I'm a mom, I have teenage sons, I'm a life partner, I have my dear dog, I have aging, my
Right.
mom has Alzheimer's. Like all of us as women, and I know your podcast is for women over 50, we have a
Yeah.
lot of places that our attention turn. And so living true is part of all of that, is part of my life purpose and part of my meaning. Loving my family, all of those things. And living true is making sure that we're checking in,
Mm.
that what we are doing with our time is in fact what's most important to us. And sometimes that takes some effort, that takes some
Right.
intention, it takes some reflection, which is where journaling comes in, to really say, well, what is most important to me? How do I live true to what I say matters most?
And then walk the talk indeed and make it happen. I was actually saying to Linda, oh, what time is it there? And it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was saying, well, you look actually very awake already for 8 o'clock. And she shared that she gets up at, 5:30 every day so that she can have her quiet writing time before indeed the rest of life comes up and the other parts of the business and being there for other people, etc. I mean, you're lucky and I'm lucky that we both like writing. So journaling comes naturally. I started the first one, I'm 11. And so, of course, it's not very deep, etc. And I kept it practically non-stop. There was a little interlude where my mother did read it, and I do
Hmm.
now understand why she read it, because I was being an absolutely revolting adolescent, and she was extremely worried about what I was getting up to, and the temptation was just too big. It did put me off for a while because there's journaling and journaling, right? She also has a
Mhm.
diary, but writes nice things, whereas I literally pour my heart and soul out. But so what about, because you're talking about journaling as a way to live true for
Mhm.
everyone, right? Not just
Mhm.
for people to whom writing comes easily.
Yes, absolutely. It because it's a skill we can acquire. Journaling is a reflective practice. It's using
Yeah.
words and language and stories. And so even though it may not come naturally, meditation might not come
Mm.
naturally, but people can learn to do it. Running might not come naturally, but people can learn to do it. We can learn to do these different things that are of interest to us, or at least curious about how might it be helpful. And for a lot of people, they don't necessarily know that journaling can be a very powerful tool for personal growth, for healing, for overall wellness and personal transformation, because they may have an experience with journaling that's more that diary style, like you described
Yeah.
of your mom, that, I cooked this for dinner and I did this and the weather. And of course, our journals capture our daily lives. We can write about what's going on and what we're doing. But transformational journaling, the type of journaling that I spend a lot of time doing and also teaching and sharing with others, is the type of journaling where we're using the writing to actually know ourselves better, grow ourselves, care for ourselves. And that type of writing involves writing about our thoughts and feelings, our true thoughts and feelings, not the
Right.
censored version of our thoughts and feelings, or the version of our thoughts and feelings that we might put down because we fear someone might write it, but actually our true selves on the
Yeah.
page. And we bring our curiosity and our questions. One of my favorite things to do in my journal is to make a list of questions I have in my life right now. And that could be about any part of my life, my marriage, my care with my mom, my parenting, my work in the world. And we all have questions. What should I
Right.
do next? What project should I put my focus on? All of these different things. And so those questions that we have can become great journal prompts because we bring our curiosity, we bring our sense of wonder, we're willing to be open, we're willing to see what comes. So we're not just journaling about what we already know,
Yes.
regurgitating this life we're living. We're actually writing with a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity, a sense of surrender, a sense of being willing to reveal ourselves on the page so
Yeah,
that
because it
we
is
actually get to
vulnerable,
see
right?
ourselves.
Yeah,
We get to see
exactly.
who we are, what we think, what matters to us. And that's all part of that living true. Years ago, I was writing in my journal, and like yourself, I journaled since I was a young girl and a teenager. And I was in my 20s working as a medical social worker at a hospital in the northern central interior part of British Columbia at the time. And I kept noticing this longing to live near the ocean. And that location is interior. It has some nice lakes, but it's nowhere near the coast of British Columbia. And I also kept writing about how I would love to start my own business, which, I'd gone for 3 university degrees to become a social worker. And I had my dream job as a social worker, working in a hospital, doing work I loved. But in my journal, these things kept coming, these longings to be near the ocean, these sort of interest to start my own business. And I had no business background or entrepreneurial skills. And I thought, well, this keeps coming. And
Mm.
so it's like this is some deeper truth that wants to come forward in my life. What if I just start taking action towards it? And to make a long story short, I left that job at the hospital. I moved to this island, Salt Spring Island, over 24 years ago, which caused me to start a business because it's a small place and there's not a lot of career
Yeah.
jobs here. And then my life, has unfolded from there. But the point is in the journal, when we're willing to ask questions and when we're willing to see patterns and we're willing to
That's what I was
see
going
our
to say. It's
own
the
longings
patterns,
and
isn't it? You see
desires,
it.
and
Yeah.
then we're willing to take action. I'm really big about using journaling, to go from awareness to action. And I'm a coach, as you mentioned, and building awareness and deepening our learning is one part of our growth path. But to actually reach our goals, we
Mm.
also need to take action
Mm.
towards those insights and awareness. So we're not just using our journal to randomly, ramble around year after year after year. We're using it to express ourselves purposefully, to learn more about ourselves, to listen to our true desires, to honor the truth of our lives, and to live true to that by taking the necessary actions
Right.
to go where the thread's taking us, go where the words and impulses and intuition and instinct is taking us. And that takes a lot of courage to live that
Yes.
way because we have to be willing to listen to ourselves, trust ourselves,
Yeah, and
And
we're
as
not brought up
women,
that way, are we? We're not brought up to tap in there. We're up to think, okay, what is smart? What will have the highest return on investment and all of that. Starting now, I would say now our society is more open to tuning in to our inner wisdom and the
yeah,
years.
and you marry both, right? You marry intuition with strategy. You marry your instincts with some good, smart decision-making skills. So you make a wholeness to it. I like to think of it as balancing that masculine and feminine energy
Mm,
that we all have within us. And we might sort of have more of one way than the other based on lots of things. But we want to, that instinct and impulse to move to an island,
mm.
that still involved decision making. That still
Yes,
involved making a budget. That
yes,
still involved hiring a moving truck and making a plan to move. It wasn't just
yes.
snapping
It's
a
not
finger and,
pure. Yeah,
then you're sitting along the shore. So there's all those, thoughtful decisions and action steps that we still need to plan and strategize. But it starts with being tuned into, well, what's the desire in the first place?
right.
Because we could spend a lot of time doing a lot of things that may have nothing to do with what really
We really
matters
mean.
most to
Yeah.
us. We're just not even being intentional. We're not setting goals. We're just sort of going through the motions, going one thing after the other after the other. It's like, well, journaling is a way to pause. It's a way to pause in your day. It's a way to pause in your thoughts and your feelings and really take stock of what's there and what matters, and to use a creative expressive process like journaling is a way to really, I think, like no other way really, to really sit with you and learn the workings of your own inner self, your thought patterns, your emotional patterns, your triggers, your longings. All of it comes out in the journal if we let it. And then we can literally see ourselves on the page, and then live according to that great inner compass that's
Because in a way,
there.
we are committing already because we're writing it down, right? We're making it already a step real. But okay, so let me play the devil's advocate for those who don't journal. I've never journaled. We're talking
Mhm.
about a fabulous after 50 audience. So if I hear what you're saying, it's mostly to know who we are and to recognize the patterns and things that we don't have maybe in our focus in our daily life because we're busy doing, but that by sitting and journaling, there are things percolating up, like you said, your desire to be near the coast, which then, so did you reread your journals, in order to see this pattern?
It didn't. What I noticed is that I recognized I was writing about it a lot. It's like,
Right.
oh, I was writing
Yeah.
about wanting to live near the ocean last week. Oh, I've been writing about this for
Right.
a while. What's
Right.
that about?
Do you
Yeah.
actually reread your journals?
I reread them for projects. So right now I'm working on my adoptee memoir, and my journals are, I didn't, write them with the intention of writing a memoir. I didn't know when I was a journal keeper I would ever even get
Yeah.
that idea or embark on that project. But thankfully, I have been an avid journal writer because they're filled with so much wonderful raw material.
Mm,
So things I would never remember, like for example, when I met my birth mother for the first time when I was 30, I'll be 55 this September. I was writing, I was at one of my best friend's homes, and I was on at her island in her kitchen, and my mom was there, my mom who
wow.
raised me, and Diane, my biological mother, was coming to meet me at my best friend's house, who just had a baby who was
Wow.
5 weeks old, and my dear mom. And I was writing at the kitchen island, like how I was feeling, like she was
Just
about to
before
get
she arrived.
there. And
Yeah.
I was writing about how I had changed like 3 times. What do you wear when you're meeting your mother for the first time, when she hasn't seen you since you were, hours old? And so all of this is there in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
journal, and I would never have the nuances of that,
Yeah.
that I had a purple shirt on and then I
Yeah.
changed to a blue, I would never remember that. But because some of that richness and texture and detail is in my journal, it's really helping me with this other project. So my point there is I don't just reread them very often just for the sake of, I've
Hmm.
lived it, I've written it, that's filled with all kinds of, there's grocery lists in my journal, there's
Yes.
lists and mind maps and free flow, right? It's a catch-all. there's things taped in it, receipts for,
Oh, fun.
tickets, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a collective. And mostly it's the written word. There are people who do a lot of art journaling and mixed media journaling, which is fun too. But the rereading for project specific things, yes, that's kind of mining those journals for, a lot of people will
Exactly.
do that for personal essay or books or blogs or,
I think it
other
also
writing they
depends
might be
which
doing.
period, right, you're talking about. I mean, I know those adolescent ones I started, it was too raw. It was
Yeah.
it was making me feel really weird. Kept thinking, later go back to them. It is interesting to know how you were seeing things. But then I remember, for example, each of my children when they were born, I wrote limitless, as in literally until all the emotions were out. And I found them not long ago and I gifted them to them. All about,
Mm,
the expectation, the dreams, the thing, not all the
yeah.
gory details, but, all
Yeah.
the rest, same thing. What was I wearing? And I put my hair in plaits for one of them. And then it was really
Mm.
touching for them to see that.
That's beautiful, and what a precious, precious gift
Yeah.
to give. The one thing I do love about rereading, I think there is a lot of value to rereading if someone would like to. And one of them is we get to see our growth. We get to see,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I felt, because
Yes.
we forget both the incredible joys, and we also can dim, we kind of lose a little bit of the power of some of the
We choose
painful
what we
things that
remember,
happen
right?
too.
Mm.
And we get to see the wholeness of our life. That's why I always say, like, don't just have a journal be a dumping ground for every negative thing that happens or every stress and worry in life, because then you get this skewed collection.
Biased. Yes,
We
totally.
want to
Yeah.
make sure it includes our joy and our wonder and our things we're proud of and our gratitude, and like that it gets the wholeness of these lives that we're living. And yes, it's a wonderful place to vent and make decisions and sort things out and get what's on the inside out, just venting. And that's sort of that cathartic healing power of writing, when we're
Yeah.
writing to heal.
Because that's how you
But it,
coach it, right? It's as a healing
yeah,
medium,
yeah,
right? As a way to work our way through things, to recognize things.
yeah. But
But so,
we also can remember ourselves. We can remember our resilience. We can
mm,
remember, wow, I got through that. That was a really hard time. And I'm still here, and I've learned so much. We can see our own evolution. We see how we grow. We see how we survive. We see how we thrive. It's all sort of given back to us in the rereading of a journal. And we get
right.
to remember ourselves in our lives. And the other is we get to remember, I remember rereading my journal for part of this memoir writing, and it was back in my from my first marriage. And rereading it, I was able to remember, because after the marriage, there's a lot of sadness and
Yeah.
loss and grief and pain, and you kind of hook on to all that grief. But rereading the journal, which that was real, and that was all in the journal too. But rereading prior to that was, wow, here were a lot of beautiful moments of
Yeah.
loving and sharing life, and remembering
That as well.
that.
It's the big picture,
Um,
right?
yeah,
Okay, but so let's say we're talking about a 50 plus audience here. So for those who have not journaled, it's still worth starting now, right? I mean, we're not,
absolutely.
and I was thinking actually in a way, even not even more so because it's great all the time, but it is often a period of self-reflection, let's say these years. It's a bit sort of, the midlife has now moved towards the 50s, that maybe things in our lives have maybe calmed down a bit. Maybe the children are, not that needy anymore if they're still at home. So we do have more time for self-reflection, like, am I doing what I thought I would do? Am I living, my mission, or what is it? So I guess it's probably an extremely useful period to start journaling.
Absolutely. It's like anything, the best time to start something is now. If we
Is
haven't
now,
done it
yeah,
already
right,
and we would
right.
like to, there's no bad time to begin. And the other is, I think it's really important to bring a very self-compassionate, self-loving, self-honoring energy to journaling. We're not going there to beat ourselves up. We're not going there to in any way negate the life we've been living. We're going there to be curious, to reflect, to be in the present moment. So
Right,
people will ask, well, where do I start? I've never journaled before. To start right now, because
right.
journaling is a mindfulness practice. It's a present moment awareness practice. We might write about our past, we might write about our dreams for
But
the
we do it
future,
now, right?
but we
Yeah.
are writing now. A
Oh,
couple
sorry, yeah.
prompts to help people get started, because a good prompt is, right now I notice, or right now I feel. and you let that prompt bring you into the present moment, whether you're starting to journal at, 25 or 65 or 54, it's like right now
I
I
notice.
notice, or right now I would like to say, or right now I feel. Just kind of come into the now, take a few deep breaths, allow yourself to relax and settle in, and just trust that you can't get it wrong. You're always the expert of your own experience. Journaling is a very empowering practice. You're there to be, capturing your own life, your own thoughts, your own feelings, and those are yours. And they don't belong to someone else. They are you. They are what are important to you. They're what make you you. And to just really bring a lot of self-love to the page. I just finished co-authoring, just came out in February, an affirmations for self-love journal
Oh,
with Eric Maisel and myself. And it is just that it's a journal with pages, and every page has a quote, and then an affirmation, and then a writing prompt, all geared
oh,
towards. So this is just an example. They're all with different titles. So action, fallen or stumbled, dip your brush, change is possible. They're all kind of inspired by the
oh,
quotes. So this is, I just opened this page randomly. At first, say to yourself, what would you be? And then do what you have to do. And that's a quote by Epictetus. Affirmation, I can picture how I want to be. So you just sit with that. I can picture how I want to be. It's very affirmative and nourishing. And then the writing prompt, describe how you would like to be and what actions are required to be that person. And
oh,
so it's filled with all different things. This is another one. Make sure. I just, you saw me. I just flipped to there.
yeah.
When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. Paulo Coelho. Affirmation. I will not lose myself in others. Writing prompt. I can take real care of myself and be of service to others.
What a
And
fantastic
it's
idea. I love it.
yeah, so it was fun creating that.
If I say somebody's not
Yeah.
not written, do you do it every day? Do you do it for a limited amount of time? Do you have an open-ended book? I mean, I know they're all the things that I struggle with because sometimes I think that, I could sit down and journal the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
I
that's
have
avid
diaries
journal
which are
writers we can.
yeah, well, so then I buy these diaries, which are a page a day, okay, a whole page, but still somehow then I look at it. I know I'm
Yeah.
limited and I don't flow. I then tend to say, okay, what I was stuff that, I was working on that day, etc. And then if I have been doing a nice trip or something, I'll put something in there. But it's not the same as if I was sitting down without giving myself a certain amount of time and with a sort of book where you can just write and write and write. So is there a procedure that you advise to beginners in journaling?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, when we're trying to create any habit, and let's say you're trying to create the journaling habit, you'd like to have journaling as a self-care practice and part of your wellness and personal growth, then well, what does it take to kind of get into the habit of doing that? So I invite people to think about what's the natural rhythm of their day. So for example, I'm a morning person, so I position my journaling first thing in the morning with my first cup of coffee and my dog's beside me. I'm kind of rubbing her belly with my left hand. I'm writing
Oh,
with, my right hand. And so it makes it easier to get to because it's sort of pairing it with another habit I already have, which is drinking the coffee, sitting
right.
with the dog. So finding a time in your day, maybe it's a break at your lunch, or maybe before you go to bed, you want to just clear your head
Yeah.
and write down, what are two things you want to remember from today, or what are five things you're grateful for from the day. And you just get in the habit of putting it in a time period that works for you.
That you can honor
And you
every
don't
day regularly.
yeah, you just kind of, and then you don't, and if you miss a day or you miss a week, it's like, oh, I didn't write for the last few days. I'm going to do that today. And you just pick it back up again in a very self-loving,
Mm.
self-caring way, and not the, oh, I haven't written for 5 days. I'm not meant to be a journal writer. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I haven't written for 5 days because I had to take the dog to the vet and I had to do this and I had to do that. And now I'm going to write today. And that,
And then do
just
you write
real,
back per day or do you just write that
no,
day? You
no,
don't write
never.
back. No,
No,
no.
no. I might say, oh, I haven't journaled in 5 days. And, these are some highlights I want to remember. I want to remember that conversation I had with my brother. I want to remember, but I really just pick up in the moment, open my journal and start writing.
Right. So it's not per
And
day. You don't have one of those diaries per day.
I do write most days because it's just a habit I have, but I don't keep track of it. I don't worry if I
Because
haven't
I
written
do, if I
enough.
haven't written for a few days, and then because it's a day, a page a day, but with
Oh, a
the
page a
calendar,
day.
then I'm a bit like, oh gosh, I've got to go back. And how was I feeling that day again?
When I've kept journals like that are structured on the page with daily journal pages with the daily date and that, like more like a planner, that's kind of a, diary. I would go back in that type of tool and just put some bullet points.
Mm,
What maybe something I did that day. When the tool I'm holding has that structure, you
right.
feel more compelled to fill in because you feel like you're missing something. But my daily practice journal, it's just, it's
It's
blank
open. Yeah.
pages.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to miss.
How do you know
Just,
when to stop?
well, I stop because I have to go on a podcast at 8 o'clock. I stop
Right.
because I need to get some breakfast. I have to go to an appointment. A lot of people will create timed writing. It's like they're 15 minutes. It's like they
Right.
meditate for 20 minutes a
Yeah.
morning. They do yoga for, I do yoga for 17 minutes many mornings. It's like, okay, I'm going to journal for
It's,
10,
yeah.
15 minutes. So you get into the rhythm of your own. Like I could journal for hours. I
Yeah.
love when I have a day with not like starting right at a certain time. I just love that lingering feeling of it and capturing ideas and thinking about this project or what I'm working on and just being out with your own thoughts on the
Right.
page. It's so replenishing and I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. So
So
make it, so
it's
it's
really
sticking
make
to
it
a
your
time.
own. Make
Yeah.
it your own, but creating the habit is pick a time and do it, consistently, and that'll help you make the habit. Pair it up with something else you're already doing. It's called habit pairing so that you can hook on the train of something that's already a habit. We already brush our teeth. We don't have to really think about it. It's like, I'm going
Yeah.
to brush my teeth and journal for 5 minutes,
Right.
that kind of thing. And let it be easy and let it be even a 5-minute journal entry. When I teach all different journaling for self-care workshops and so forth, we'll often do 3-minute writings, 5-minute writings, 7-minute
Okay.
writings, and people are amazed to see what can come in 5 minutes.
Mm.
There's Kay Adams, who teaches a lot around journaling and journaling therapy, a wonderful colleague and journaling friend. And she talks about the importance of structure, pacing, and containment. Those things, if we are just free writing and we give ourselves no time limit, that writing's going to go into a certain place that a timed writing for 5 minutes
Wouldn't.
with, a prompt is going to go. So, it's not prescriptive, but to give yourself permission to do what will work for you. Gratitude journaling is a great place to start. If you don't know what
It's
to
a good
write
one.
about, just
Yeah.
pause and write about, what you're grateful for in that moment, in that day, in your life. You can do it as a list. You
It's a
can more
great
free flow.
ideas. So
And
empowering.
yeah, and prompts help. The blank page can be a daunting place. So prompts can be questions. There's all kinds of different journaling activities. We wrote a book called The Great Book of Journaling, how journal writing can
Oh,
support a
look,
life
there
of
we are. We'll make sure all
wellness.
of this is in the show notes because these are great resources then.
Yeah, and this book has 40 contributing authors, people in the journaling
Oh,
space. And so it has like Juicy Journaling by Sartre, Journaling Basics, Journaling Simplicity, Journaling Resistance, the Creative Journal, Storytelling Journal, Healing Journal,
it's a
Legacy
whole
Journal,
world,
Planning
right?
Journal. In other words, there's all different reasons to keep a journal.
Yeah.
There's all types of ways to have a journal. And it's like any personal growth practice or even a hobby, you get to make it your own, but
Yeah.
learn about it. You can read about it.
I mean,
In our
that's certainly
idea,
what I would suggest. I mean, we have actually got to the end. I mean, I feel like we could talk about this for hours, but I am so grateful that you have all these resources as well available, and I will put them in the show notes. And I mean, the beauty with this as well is it doesn't cost anything, right? It's just
yeah.
a piece of paper and a pen, and we're taking our time, and it can bring us so much to make sense, to discover who we are, what it is that we want to contribute. And you were saying, self-healing as well, 50 plus, we've usually got quite a bit of baggage with us, and to work our way through things. I would like to just finish by saying, how can people get hold of you? Do you do this online as well, the coaching?
Yes, it's all online
Oh,
in
it's
our
all online.
International
Okay.
Association for Journal Writing. It's iajw.org. And I
Right.
have a free gratitude journaling gift with 20 gratitude prompts and 20 affirmations. And I sent you the link, Julia.
Put it in the show
And
notes.
yeah, and when you get that, if you choose to, and I hope you will, you also receive a complimentary copy of my free journaling newsletter, which is a weekly publication filled with journaling inspiration and prompts and stories to really help you
Beautiful.
nourish journaling in your life. And the last thing I'd love to say is just let it be fun. This is
Right.
time for yourself
Right.
and
It's not
it's not
school
about
having
the
to write.
product.
Yes.
It's not about the product or perfection. It's the process of sitting down and taking time to be with yourself. And that is a precious commodity for us as women. And it really makes a difference. So thanks for
Wonderful.
having me, Julie.
Thank you very much, Linda. To the rest of you out there, give it a try, right? You've got nothing to lose and just so very much to gain. And if you're looking for inspiration, if you're looking for how to, let's look up all of Linda and Eric's or Linda and others' books, because there are so many of them. And this can be really what helps us live these years to the best of our ability. And that's what this podcast is all about. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, all of you, and happy journaling, I would say.
Yeah, thank you.